the 1st of December, 2021. This is a town hall meeting for the digital world, which is the first Thursday of every month. We're going to get kicked off while folks are coming in and watch a very important video for the first digital nation.
Your Excellencies, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, Talofa and warm Pacific greetings from Tuvalu. Last year, I addressed this August Assembly, proclaiming that we must take bold and alternative action today to secure tomorrow. I explained that although we needed global collaboration to end the climate crisis, we in the Pacific would not sit idly by and wait for the world to act. Today, I speak again from my country, from a small islet that is likely to be one of the first spots in Tuvalu to be submerged by rising sea level. Since COP26, the world has not acted, and so we in the Pacific have had to act. We have seen temperature rise projections remain well above 1.5 degrees Celsius, foretelling the imminent disappearance of islets like this one. We have had to take our own precautionary steps with the Future Now project. As our land disappears, we have no choice but to become the world's first digital nation. Our land, our ocean, our culture are the most precious assets of our people. And to keep them safe from harm, no matter what happens in the physical world, we'll move them to the cloud. Islands like this one won't survive rapid temperature increases, rising sea levels, and droughts, so we'll recreate them virtually. Piece by piece, we'll preserve our country, provide solace to our people, and remind our children and our grandchildren what our home once was. This is also a matter of sovereignty. We in Tuvalu are taking bold steps to ensure that our statehood and our maritime boundaries are permanently maintained, despite extreme land loss due to climate change and sea level rise. Our digital nation will provide an online presence that can replace our physical presence and allow us to continue to function as a state. We have been working on these initiatives for the past year, building our capacity to retain and preserve our nation and the unity of our people, even as climate change spirals out of control. Global action must be taken to provide the best case scenario, but we in the Pacific are planning and preparing for a worst case scenario. We need to be able to secure our statehood, our maritime boundaries, and our endowments, no matter what happens in the future. The world's inaction has led our Pacific region to take greater action and forge our own path as leaders on the international stage. But our action alone cannot stop the current trajectory of climate change. Only concerted global effort can ensure that Tuvalu does not move permanently online and disappear forever from the physical plane. Our Tuvaluan culture dictates that we all must share responsibility for the global predicament caused by the climate crisis. Together, we must stop fossil fuels emissions and fossil fuels production and majorly boost financing for loss and damage, mitigation, and adaptation measures. It is not just Tuvalu that is affected, but the world is facing extreme weather events and shocking temperatures. Without a global conscience and a global commitment to our shared well-being, we may soon find the rest of the world joining us online as their lands disappear. It has long been the time for action, but we have not stepped up to the challenge. We must start doing so today. Otherwise, within a lifetime, Tuvalu will only exist here. Paftailasi, Tuvalu Mateatua.
Thank you for taking the time. Once a month, we gather as individuals that care about the future of humanity and the reality that we're faced with today. I would welcome you to look at the opening statement that we talk about. Welcome to a new millennium of sovereignty, privacy, health, and unity for all people. This is what on the 21st of June, 2021 was announced, this digital world. Since then, we've met every month on the first Thursday of every single month to review progress from the prior month, to review questions, and to gather individuals that actually care about the topics that are at the top of our agendas as far as humanity. Some of the biggest ones revolve around what this gentleman just talked about. Climate change. Climate change will surpass the topics that we've discussed over the years around a virus, a pandemic, a COVID of this, a monkey of that. it's not a matter of is global warming real or not? It is real. The question is, what causes it? And is it being leveraged just like these pandemics, discussions, or even I won't get into the vaccination topic, but the point that I'm trying to drive at is we're at a crossroads. Humanity is at a crossroads. It's not a matter of we can just ignore it, we can turn the news off, we can turn the realities off. The things that will come behind global warming will drive individuals, companies, cultures, and what they can do or cannot do. We're already seeing it worldwide. Started with China, we're seeing it in Brazil, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand. New Zealand is such a terrible. I mean, took my family there for years to watch a wonderful ecosystem that was based on non-corruption, based on freedom, based on privacy, based on rights. Watch that just get torn apart. Um, we do not have the convenience to just ignore the realities that are going on around the world. I'd like to report. I'll go through some introductions here real fast. It's important to mention this is a private membership association. The things we look at maybe and talk about maybe forward looking. If you would like to join the discussion, go to townhall.clear.events. You can ask live questions. You can connect with others in real time. You can start joining the community. This is a secure platform. This is a replacement for Zoom, but you own your own data. You own your own recordings. You own your own transcripts. You're not being meta tagged. You're not being profiled. You are not a part of the centralized system. What we discuss for the digital world is all about decentralization. For those of you that are new, this is an ecosystem for all of humanity. I may be the voice today, but there will be a rapid time where that is not the case. This is a system for all of humanity. Please join townhall.clear.events if you have questions or you'd like to review it. Initially, I'm going to do a real quick report out on some of the progress over this last month. We've got a lot of questions that are kind of holding up a lot of things, primarily because we're waiting for apps to be developed, primarily this app here, which is around asking any question to any individual, everyone having a vote, and they can even do it anonymously. But cryptographically, their vote matters, their voice matters, their perspective and comments matter. Some of the things that we've seen advance over this last month is really a massive shift within communications and freedom of speech. Twitter has been purchased and is starting to be assimilated by Mr. Musk and team. This last month, we've seen potential of Apple or Google possibly having conflict with Twitter. Yesterday, Tim Cook supposedly invited Elon over to Apple and said, we're not going to have conflict. But the net is encryption keys will never be given to the user from an Apple world. I would argue the same thing from a Google world. In the ecosystem of the digital world with decentralized phones, that can be realized. We'll go through a lot of the advancements there. One of the things that's important for you to note, this system that we're actually operating off of is Clear Web. So Clear Web for the desktop has actually been built. If you notice, we're actually using Google Docs with it, but in a second, we'll show you how we can replace Google Docs, mail, calendaring, contacts, docs, sheets, presentations with a replacement that is the individuals. When you log into the digital world, just like this, you literally can log in and see other types of systems or technologies. So not just companies, which we'll talk a lot about, but agreements, apps, assets, balances, maybe biometrics, calendar, calls, chats, certs, certifications, tons of data that you currently already have, but it's in disparate systems that you log in to their username and passwords, and your data is in their system. If you want to create an organization in the digital world, there's an advancement that's occurred over the last month. You can actually log in or create you don't even need to log into this system. I'm going to put this URL inside of some of the chat options. So for those of you that are on Clear One, you can grab it there. For those that are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn, you can grab it inside of your system as well. So you should be able to see that URL. Anyone with an Android phone can download Digital Life. Digital Life is the equivalent of Clear Life. Clear Life is basically the app that runs the encryption keys. You can't see it here, but you're actually given 12 words that run your digital world. In this particular version of Digital Life, you can also grab other things such as contacts, calendar, messaging, notes, web browser. By the way, that web browser will then synchronize with your desktop environment. So all of your apps, your logins can all be basically used and managed from an encryption key that the individual owns. So again, Digital Life is kind of like Clear Life. And I'm just gonna go back a page here. And I'm going to show you Clear Life for those of you that this may be new. So Clear Life comes pre-installed on any Clear device. So that's a Clear phone, 220, 420, 620. Actually, the 220s are sold out now, but the 420 or the 620. And it literally gives you encryption keys that basically pair with your fingerprint. So these words, when you boot into the phone, you don't just get an Apple login or a Google login. You get 12 words and you write those 12 words down. You literally put them on, when you get your phone, you'll get the ability to write it down. You'll get the ability to actually put it on little, so this is you can own your own phone. Then behind that, you own your own data. So the combination of basically these 12 words in your fingerprint puts you, the individual, in charge of your digital life and your digital identity. So basically look at Clear Life on any Clear phone and Digital Life on any Android phone. This will be the basis of how the new digital world will actually communicate with logins, with identity, with applications, whether they're centralized applications that you're logging into and pulling your data into, kind of like this, or whether it's something as simple as, let's say we want to create a new organization. Can somebody give me an example? What do you want to create? Anyone, raise a hand. I swear, some of these people. All right, a trust. What kind of, I'm sorry, I was just blocking some comments there. So some terrible people posting crazy stuff. Let's do a trust for a vehicle, shall we? Let's do, say again? A house. Where do you want this house to be located? Okay. NJ Holdings. You think that NJ Holdings has actually got a website? Because in the digital world, that's one of the key things is you've got to be able to have a presence. The jurisdiction for all of these things. Well, NJ Holdings, do you think that's taken already? I'll bet you it is. It's already registered. So what we're going to do is look at other domains. So maybe what I should have done is probably log into this whole system. Actually, you know what? I bet you we can get holdings. Let's go in here. So holdings is actually a domain. So let's see if we can just get nj.holdings. Okay, so submit. There we go. So the point being here is you can register a digital location and then tie it right to this. One of the advancements that folks probably have not seen is, let's say I actually want to verify who I am. I want to link my cryptographic identity to this. Is this my phone? So I'm basic for those that are see my stream, I'm pulling up Clear Life on a Clear phone. I'm actually gonna validate that I wanna scan something. I go ahead and scan this QR code, verifies here, verifies there. It's attached my cryptographic identity. Now I'm creating a company, but I just linked a phone. The people call this Web3, whatever. It's so much further than that. But you notice this identity here is a derived key of my master private key. Those 12 words that I wrote down that I paired with my fingerprint, this is a derived key. And now I can actually, and this is actually going to communicate with, I don't need a physical address anymore. Everything is literally going to go digital. And if you want to tie to a service provider in the digital world that sends your mail and receives your mail and scans your mail, you can do that. So this is a trust. Let's grab an image for a trust. I hope I don't blow this image up. We'll see. So we're going to create this organization. So I've created the name, the type, the web domain. That's the actual domination or where it's actually domiciled out of. We're going to go ahead and create this. So it just created a company. See this company here, NJ Holdings. It has one member. It has a unique derived key. That is not my personal one, but this company now creates its own identity. Okay. I can add an asset to this organization. I can go and look at this organization. So I can see credit. I can see currencies that it can tie to. I can see polls that it may have. By the way, this polling system will tie into the digital world voting system. So kind of like we were talking about before, we can actually add members to it. So I can invite them through email or I can have them scan a QR code and it automatically invites other members or other managers to this organization. Now let's say that we actually have, now I don't know if you just saw what I did. I'm going to click on create an asset. Okay. So we're going to go and create an asset. What do we want to call this asset? I don't remember who was giving me that feedback. So let's call this, if it's in New Jersey, give me a city in New Jersey. Atlantic City property, right? We could call this Atlantic. We could call it ACP. Okay, so we're literally most in the crypto world. They all get googly eyed over this kind of stuff. I'm just going to use the same asset here. We're going to issue. How many you want to issue? Million?
10 million.
We're going to do a million, or actually, let's do it as a percentage. So let's keep it really simple for people. Let's just do 100 units, okay? So there's 100 authorized, 100 issued, and we're going to do this as a token because that ties to the asset world, and we're going to have to verify this again. So I'm going to go ahead and scan this. Okay, so it verified here, verified there. So again, I just created a digital asset. I'm going to go say generate. Okay, so we just created a digital asset and a digital company as a trust with the home. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to click on this guy here. Now I'm going into ClearPay, or this will also work with other apps, but I won't be specific on that. So I'm going to run into ClearPay, choosing derived keys to authenticate here, and then populate different values. I'm going to scroll down and actually say scan QR code. Now, when you actually create an identity in this digital world, For the first time, you're given a bunch of native, okay? So this native is actually used to create the business and the digital assets. So I'm putting my fingerprint on here. I'm actually sending native to the digital world cryptographically, and then it's actually gonna request another time again. So I'll process the payment. That's done. We're gonna wait for an approval here. Once that's done, what's happened is it created a digital asset, then it sent it to my phone. Okay, so that's done. So it says check ClearPay to see it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow away ClearPay here. I'm going to light it back up. So if you notice there, now I'm going to come back down. What was it? What was ACP? Notice ACP there. I don't know if you can see that. ACP, there's 100 units. Can you see that? So we literally just created a digital asset. If anyone else has a Clear phone or a Freedom phone or an Armor phone on this call, you can go into your ClearPay wallet if you're running the latest version of ClearPay, and you can say add more, and you can scroll through different assets. That'll now be an asset in the list, and you can literally go and scan to send and receive that asset in real time. So in other words, within 5 minutes, we logged into the digital world. We created a digital company cryptographically. We created a digital asset cryptographically. I dropped that digital asset onto my device, which is all, there's a ledger that's managing and verifying all of this, not just verifying, but it's also tracking, and not in a negative sense, but in a sense that's actually a positive. For instance, we've seen this last month, the biggest blow up, at least from my perspective, in the crypto/cryptography/blockchain ecosystem since ever. I think this is bigger than Mt. Gox. I think this is bigger than what's going to happen to Tether. I think this is a very big problem, primarily because it's fraudulent. What's happened is multiple different entities doing multiple different things, and I'm talking about SAM, I'm talking about FTX, I'm talking about things that are happening that don't have a ledger behind it, especially a ledgerless system like what I'm talking about with these validators. So everything that we're doing is cryptographically proven. And this native asset, there isn't anybody that's got this stuff. The only way to get it is actually through service providers for this new digital world. I'm going to go through and give you a bunch of updates. So if you're familiar with the digital world, this is already available. It's a layer 1 chain that is based off of the Ripple Stellar ecosystem. It has a declaration of unity. If you have not read this, please read this. I'm actually going to drop this inside. Let's see if I can get it for you. This declaration of unity is the basis of our existence, so to speak. For those on Clear One, just got it. For those online, depending on where you're streaming from, you just got it as well. Please read the declaration. Please download Digital Life. If you've already got an Android phone, you don't even need a Clear phone, an Armor phone, or Freedom phone. Just download this and you can start using it. You can start doing exactly what we just did. Other updates, and we need approval for this. So this is basically welcome to your decentralized digital governance for humanity. That is kind of the final vote that we're going to put things to. We've had some people say take out digital. It's already said with the digital world. But this is basically a new site that goes through all of the basis for what we're talking about here. Because right now, people can go through the digitalworld.earth website and they won't be able to understand all the parts and pieces. Even if they check onto these calls, we do weekly calls, we do monthly calls, they'll still struggle to see how does this digital world come together? How can you say it's a new system for the millennium? How do we manage disputes? How do we get the apps? Are the apps available on other systems? How do we build apps? How do we engage if we're software developers? How do we get into this ecosystem? How do we manage businesses? How do we communicate in this digital world? What is an organization? What is an asset? What is ownership? What is a reputation? How does the forensic system keep us safe for this garbage like what FTX has done? By the way, This ecosystem, just the forensic system alone, would have seen the problems that's happening with FTX and all of its messes around it. The reason that it gets me so upset is the precedents and the dysfunction and disrespect and just the billions of dollars that have been flushed from people that trusted. It hurts everything around it. It's just wrong. But different conversations. There's other things that have kind of popped this last month. Countries that actually want to link to the digital passport that are physical countries that literally, I'll try and give you an example, that literally already have their own citizenship, their own ability to actually have a certain precedence or a certain number of countries that they can physically visit. Now, everything that we've been talking about is basically how do we digitally go somewhere? How do we prove who we are? How do we guarantee our own assets? Whether it's like what we just created in a trust, it could be a home. How does that home tie to a mortgage? How does it tie to a title? How does it tie to payments? When you tie mortgage, title, and payments together with this system, it will replace the existing centralized mess, which is really what global warming is going to tie to the banking, to tie to the ability to actually get financing. But if you replace it with what we're talking about here in this digital world, they won't be able to take from you. They won't be. And imagine, well, I won't even think about an ecosystem where you can go to certain places. There's no taxation. And it's not just digitally anymore. It's physically and digitally. Imagine tying all these systems together. We've talked about contacts. We talked about how these contacts are unique to the individual, how they tie to the individual's world. Providers. So imagine all of these different new types of providers in this digital world, whether it's on-ramping systems and services, whether it's providing phones, whether it's providing growing opportunities or shipping, or maybe web infrastructure, kind of like what we just did with this registering of this dot holdings. Or maybe it's around how IMEI numbers can actually be private. Or maybe it's mail that's private. Or maybe it's technology that things have already been stood on, or taxation. When people go from the digital world, yeah, there can be no taxation for, payments. When we're talking about paying someone in the digital world from the digital world, we're talking about no capital gains. The taxation that we're already used to, when we talk about sales tax, property tax, use tax, probate tax, or I should say the death tax, this can all be audited in such a way that is massively disruptive. When we talk about communications, we talk about businesses, we talk about marriages. These are all different service providers that can literally enable and native to be distributed. And there's many more. We see 2 or 3 opportunities. The system's going to have to manage itself, which there's actually a governance ecosystem. You're probably already familiar with the identity side of it, which is very important. We talked about the forensics, the notary side of it. Some of you may actually want to be some of the first notaries, where you get in, you build your own identity. You can actually start verifying other people as an online notary. You don't meet in person. You actually, instead, you sit down, and what we're doing right now, we're doing a town hall, literally online, real time, questions, Q&A, reviews, polls. By the way, I'm going to ask a quick question. Maybe I should do it once people start asking their own questions. Taxation, we've talked about this. Health, huge conversation. We'll just put that in the future. Voting is one of the biggest things that we're currently focused on. How do we build a system that is just as intuitive as Facebook, as Twitter, as payment systems? I mean, in literally in China, and I use this thing every day, I'm sad to say, WeChat is how I connect with folks around the world. They have already been controlled. I've been to China. I've tried to play the YouTube videos. They don't work. I've tried to do the Google searches. They don't work. I've tried to get on Facebook. It doesn't work. Now with ClearGM, it actually circumvents that. Different conversation. I won't make claims there, because ClearGM on the mobile device doesn't work, even though it does work. By the way, Wally, we need to take a task on ClearGM web domain, if you could remind me on that. Anyways, voting is a very, very big part of where this is going. You can see the back end polls. You can see the authentication. You can literally have a voice without even having to give up your own privacy. Mortgages, future conversation. If you're getting in on the finance committee, so there's different committees. So these are different councils: responsibility, governance, health, legal, economic, business, developers, providers, safety. The providers are for the service providers: safety, education, finance, technology, infrastructure, consumer service, and communications. These different councils can actually collectively create more councils or remove councils. So you can have, like, let's say that you've got property, you've got mortgages, let's say you've got payments and currencies. We'll say 4 different things. Those could all fall underneath a finance council of 5 to 51 people per council. So the point is all of these people can, it's everyone. It's like whoever gets in to be involved, they can do it. This literally hands the reins over to humanity to either drive it off a cliff or hopefully manage it in a respectable way. And that's actually doing what they say they're going to do. Why? Because it's cryptographically proven. When we understand what happens with the House, with the Senate, with the judiciary, it's policy that's created. It's laws that are created. And once they're created, who executes them? Can you trust how they're executed? In this ecosystem, you can literally say, this is the policy, and the developers can build that, you can audit it, and then next thing you know is you set it and forget it. So hopefully you come to understand that is why there's such a massive disruption, because maybe we should never even be in the mortgage ecosystem, but people will come together and create different councils to be able to be involved in these different systems. Maybe it's land management. Maybe the system should never even manage land. Why? Who owns it? Who really owns it? By the way, if you're interested, we're making some commitments right now. And so we need to understand if folks are interested one way or the other. It's fine either way. 2023, the Digital World Forum and Clear Summit, September, the first week of September. So basically the 3rd. If you want to attend, literally, and right now there's no pandemic, vaccinations. You don't need any of it, but $1,750 per person. This is planned on 2 people per room. That includes the room, that includes the food, that includes the phone. We're not looking to make money on this. We're looking to literally connect folks. Once a year, we physically get together. So this is an Alaskan cruise in September, 7 days, 5 ports. There's also going to be an excursion that goes to the top of White Pass. We wanted to do this last year. The year prior, at the bottom, you can actually see a lot of the videos. And if you haven't seen this, I'll also put this inside of the chat as well. So that went to Clear One. This goes to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So accommodations, this is based upon time frame and availability. These are kind of activities, and it's just your basic, it's really a nice cruise, but there's a lot of activities that we'll actually do with different events that's on board. There will be a scavenger hunt where we basically shut down the normal payment processes, and we use this technology to actually have a really fun scavenger hunt. And then every day of the cruise, we'll actually be giving away a ClearNode. This up here. These are the videos from the prior year with all the different speakers, from Conrad to Jason to Amelia to Leah to Paul, some independent journalists, to John. And I'm not being specific on who these people are. You can only imagine. From Keith, that'd be wonderful if he could join. But I actually talked to Sam Smith today, who's the individual that created the DIT architecture. So if you haven't ever looked at Carry, Key Event Receipt Infrastructure, this is what will run the QR codes and identity for humanity, period. What this man has come up with, all of humanity is literally building their infrastructure on it. We talked to him today about being a possible keynote and key part of it. So for those technical folks that actually get googly-eyed over this individual, the goal is to have him there in person. He's an amazing human. So I'll jump back over to the summit, watch the videos from prior years. If you want to actually be involved in it real time, this is how you'll do it. Or, you just log on every month, and there's going to be councils where you'll have your own council meetings. You'll have your own, policies that will be created, and then it's a matter of people actually adapting to it. And then native that will actually help to pay the developers that has to get approved. So there'll be budgeting and just tons of wonderful things that you'll be able to drive the future of. So we talked about assets. Well, how do assets actually turn in to something that's in the real world, or how can you cash them in? Because we all understand this thing of cash. We get cash, we get a Visa, we get MasterCard, Discover, we get ACH, and we get the current banking systems, right? But do we really understand how they create money? Do we really understand fractional bank lending? Do we really understand mortgages and how those are created? So I'll stop blabbing here, but it's really important to help be the future of this digital world with trust, with respect, with virtue, with principles. So we're looking for people that actually want to help build this new ecosystem. We're so grateful to Amelia and all the work that she and her county have done. They're tracking, I want to say, over 30,000. That's the last number. I'll just be conservative and say over 20,000 marriages that are online, cryptographically proven. What they have done is absolutely amazing. And it's right here out of Utah County in the state of Utah, recognized by law. We've had organizations from Cyprus to Israel to many religious organizations to other countries, even sister companies like Canada, call in and say, we don't honor this. We don't validate this. But let me tell you, when you're an individual that finds your significant other, especially like, for instance, in COVID, right in the middle of COVID, people wanted to get married. Maybe it was from China to the US for certain rights. Maybe it was, two people that were not vaccinated up in Ontario, Canada, and they say, hey, you can't get a marriage license because you're not vaccinated. So if you can't get a marriage license, you can't get married. Just another example of the attack on the family. But what if they could actually go online, get married? Not what if, these things happened. So I just want to underscore Amelia and all the effort, Mike and Aaron, and just the people that really helped to make that become a reality. So we already saw some of these domains. This is how the actual digital world works. That domain is like real estate. Different events. We've talked about pieces of that. I won't go into that. But again, by the way, you can pay, and I'll actually send this out as well. This is actually where you purchase. This is where you would actually purchase those tickets, and you can pay in native, BTC, Ethereum, or Clear. Councils. If you have not joined a council and you want to join a council, the next meeting that we'll have, you will actually be able to log in with your QR code. I personally saw it work this last week, but it has not been implemented on the new site. But when the new site goes live, you'll literally be able to use your Clear Life or Digital Life app and automatically register for it anonymously. Very important, very valuable. Payments, we won't talk about that. People understand it. Business company registry. So can you create a business? Can that business be validated? Fiat cards, we won't talk a lot about that. There's a ton that's there. Membership, this is basically 10 steps to be able to become a member. And it goes through kind of the steps. And then this piece of it, no, I'm not seeing it. I'll try and find it here. Nope, try and find it here. So imagine the ability, by the way, this last month, there's also the digital world will have a digital spokeswoman. Her name will be Eve or Evelyn. You'll get to know her amazing stuff that she's been, it's so cool what technology can do nowadays, but just know that there's a surprise coming. This is kind of what the store is shaping out to be. And there's going to be lots of questions that's going to come because maybe people don't want this, but they have to know what the question is. They have to know what the right versus left or wrong versus right answer is, so people can actually get involved and say, you know what, that feels right. Maybe it's too early. Maybe it doesn't feel, maybe the value's not there. Maybe we don't get it. But the point is there has to be something that's framed up that people can actually start understanding. So if you want to become a member, you can do so for free. You get that digital life, you get your membership, you get training, identity. And by the way, Eve's going to be one of the ones that's going to do a lot of training. For those that did training prior, especially Tyler, just thank you. Thank you for doing something that you didn't want to do. You did such a great job at it. Wallets, health, and then you can create companies, associations, organizations, trusts like we just did, or special purpose vehicles, whether they're entities, whether they're vehicles, etc., or create digital assets. The digital assets will actually require native, which comes with the application, but only a certain quantity. And then literally other productivity tools, such as what we're going through with Clear One. You can pick this stuff up to a limited basis. It only comes with 1 gig worth of storage. And then from there on, everybody can do that on any Android device, so to speak. But if you want to be a resident, or if you want to actually go and buy a phone, you can basically get these additional services and support. So if you want a bank account, if you want a digital phone, if you want support, if you want migration or virtual visas or MasterCard, or what was the other one, a Discover. So there's all 3 of those cards are basically already in the works from different service providers that are lighting up. Physical ones in addition to virtual ones, domains, notary services, marriages. All of these basically come with the resident side of things, the citizen side of it. So imagine the ability to do all of that, to be able to have disputes, to be able to have asset management. So if you were to pass away, how does the next generation actually touch to these assets? How do they cryptographically get proven? Let's say you lost your 12 words. How can you actually go and validate through your contacts and rebuild your identity through people saying, yes, that's who they say they are, and it automatically start rebuilding that? People will think that's crazy. I don't see how it works. But if you set that up so think about it. Looks like time screen now. Bob, I think you probably I'll stop sharing here. It's probably on your side, but I'll help rebuild it for you. Give me a thumbs up if that worked for you, bud. So the point being is there's membership, there's residency, there's citizenship, and there's this beautiful topic around country access. But imagine if we put ourselves back into the gentleman that we started this video on. I wish I didn't close that out. Let me see here we go. This gentleman right here. Put yourself in his shoes. Put yourself with the responsibility of a whole culture that literally their island is disappearing. Whether global warming is real or not, which I personally believe it's real, but I sat there at the World Economic Forum right next to Jim Carrey, to his face said, it's a natural occurrence. If you want to basically throw money at it and you want real energy, perpetual energy, it actually doesn't create heat. What we're doing as humanity, I agree, it doesn't make a lot of sense. What we call fossil fuel, it's not even fossil fuel, but what we call oil and fossil fuels, how we pump it out of the earth, ship it, refine it, put it into tanks, pump it into other tanks, and then burn it through engines with combustible. It doesn't make sense. I totally agree with that. But to be able to control humanity through it, that's not right. But we still have a reality that islands are disappearing, that identities are disappearing, that culture is disappearing, languages are disappearing. But with technology, all of this can literally become a part of a new digital world that we can all share, that we can all benefit from. So with that being said, we've got 15 minutes. Any questions, any thoughts, any feedback? Again, for those, if you've got them, feel free to just go ahead and ask them. But for those that may have something and you're on Twitter or YouTube, by the way, Rumble connections keeps breaking, but or LinkedIn or Twitter, if you're on any of those platforms and you want to ask questions, go to townhall.clear.events. There's nothing to install. You can do it on PCs. You can do it on mobile devices. You can log in and ask questions. Any questions from folks that are already in? Feel free to raise your hand. Feel free to ask your questions. Now's your time. Okay, so you actually found it. This is awesome. You found it. And when you see it, click on, you may need to refresh for the asset details because remember, this is in multiple systems all around. But click on watch, and then it will actually come into your ClearPay assets that you can see. Share. Okay, close. Yeah, no, don't restart your phone. Just restart the app. So close the app all the way, and then restart the app, and then you should be able to see it if you clicked watch, and then you should be able to literally hold a QR code up, and I can send these all to you since these are your assets, buddy. Yeah, but you're gonna want to come in. Actually, you can. Yeah. Now, once you've added it to your watch list, go ahead and go back, and it should be in your organizational account assets. I don't know if folks can see that. Oh, I've got my video off. I'm gonna turn this on here for so you can see it. So you're basically looking for this asset. Okay. Now you're gonna go into it and you're gonna say receive, and you're gonna turn on your video stream, and then I'll go ahead and send it. Yep. Yep. Now share your video stream and then put your phone up, and we'll show everybody how all this stuff works. By the way, thanks for taking us back to that. I really appreciate that. Not share, show your video. So you turn your video on. Are you on your phone? Okay. Yeah. If you're on your computer, turn your video stream on and then just hold your phone up with your QR code. Does that make sense to you? There we go. Yep. So you're sharing your screen. Yeah. Turn your video on. No, you just basically kick your video stream on is what you'll do. There you are. Just throw your phone up. Just kind of hold it still. Uh, okay. I'm saying send, put my fingerprint on there. It's good to see you, buddy. Okay. Yeah, I'll take you off camera there. So, but you should be able, so it was sent on my side. You should be able to have those assets. If you want to show the folks your screen right now, I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Show your balance right. Okay, so you already got 99. So we created 100. I just wanted to keep one so it keeps the asset in my thing. So you can see we literally logged onto the digital world, created a digital organization, created a digital asset, synced that asset to a phone. He popped up his phone, pulled that in. I sent it to him in real time. There's no cost to this transaction, like a thousandth of a cent. There is no government, there is no banking, and it's real time. You tell me how this digital world doesn't have viability for the humanity. This is very important work. That what you just experienced, Bob, is literally one of the first transactions that's happened like that all the way through. I scanned just, and I appreciate you showing up every week and every month. I don't know how you got connected into it, but grateful to know you. Other questions? Did you have any thoughts there, Bob? I'll interrupt you. Um, Imagine you just how much of your time is working for a mortgage and for a home. Do you have kids? Do you realize someday, and humans have a natural tendency to not think about this, probably by design, but do you realize that someday your heart, my heart won't be beaten anymore? And all the work that you're doing, for instance, there's a wonderful gal that's on this meeting. I won't be specific with her name, but she watched. And as a matter of fact, at the last summit, both of them drove all the way across the country to be here. And since then, his name is Michael, and I'll just leave it at that, passed away. What happens with his real world assets, with his kids, with digital assets, with insurance policies? For instance, I just got this last month, notice that my father that passed away about the same time as this other Michael, by the way, my dad's name is Michael as well. The insurance company reaches out. Hey, do we do this? Do you do that? It's crazy the amount of taxation and structure that they try and push into it. For me, it's like, I don't even want to be involved in this. But we have to figure out a future, or the centralized systems will figure out the future for us. Have you ever wondered why your home, your cash flow to get your mortgage on your home, your insurance from a disclosure standpoint tied to your home, and it's not just your home. It could be renter's insurance, it could be homeowner's insurance, it could be property insurance, it could be auto insurance. My point is we have to create an ecosystem where the individual says, just like you, Bob, I've worked hard for my life, for a home, and then when I pass away, I want to actually dictate where it goes. And you know what? Over time, maybe I want to modify that. Imagine an interface that you can log in that says, not only is this a company, I'll jump back over to this interface here. So not only like we just created this asset here, right? So you can kind of see 100% of this is a home that you just created. So again, this New Jersey holdings that has a home inside of it that represents 100% of that home, you just got 99% of it. And we could even say, let's go ahead and add new owners to this, or managers of it, or members of it, or you can ask real-time questions. Not only is a poll, but it's like that's one of the biggest things in life is, what is the question that we need an answer to? That is like half of the trial and opportunity that we have. So it's like, what is it you want to do with life when it passes away? Is it lessons that you want to leave? Is it memories that you want to leave? Is it data that you want to leave? For instance, I have a very dear friend. He's on my Facebook profile. I've worked with him for over a decade. His name is Ray Mahir. He passed away from remdesivir treatment in New Zealand. This is a country that literally went on lockdown when nobody was sick. They did not have issues. People got a cold, a nasty cold that was, I'm not going to say it was man created. That's a whole nother conversation. You can do your own due diligence. But the point being is, this gentleman wanted to come to the same event that Margaret, that Michael, that others came to. I said, don't come. He says, I'm coming. The only way to do it was to get vaccinated. He gets vaccinated. 48 hours later, 24 hours later, he's in the hospital. They give him remdesivir. 2-3 weeks later, he's dead. This is a wonderful man that has 3 kids, an amazing wife, and they don't know what weighs up. What's the will? What's the services look like? In New Zealand, they do for Maoris, they do a very different type service. It's a year later. There's crazy, but wouldn't it be wonderful if we could actually just prepare for next generations to take over? Whether that's not just from assets, because assets really don't ultimately matter, but maybe from lessons that you've learned, maybe from stupid things that we've done, that we could help the next generation to say, learn from this mistake, see the damage it causes, navigate around it. I grew up in foster homes, and my foster mom always said to me, Mike, you amaze me. You're one of the people that always has to learn from their own mistakes. You always make stupid decisions. Why can't you learn from this? She says it in a loving way. And she just loved me. She just said, you know what? You just have to learn that way. But my point is why is it that future generations can't really learn from a voice, from a recording, from an experience, from data? There's so much data that think about if we were tracking, well, I won't even go into some of the health stuff. The health stuff is a whole nother conversation, but all I'm trying to say is, Bob, what we just created, like you didn't even log in. You can log in on your own. I logged in. I created a organization for you. We created an asset and a trust for you. We created a digital representation of what that is that's cryptographically backed for you. I literally then sent it to you. So I have proof that I have one of these, right? You have the 99, and you tell me why a title company or a bank or a mortgage company wouldn't actually look at that. Now, let me back up. The last 13 years, the clear companies have been building decentralized systems for this digital world. The prior 13 years, we were building a new ecosystem. Well, it was actually like 9 years, but we did security stuff prior to that. But the point that I'm driving at is we built centralized systems. And as we built these centralized systems, counties, states, pharmaceuticals, hospitals, mortgage, title, finance, all these companies we did their IT for. And you know what? There is massive dysfunction. There is massive liability. Think about the county in New Jersey that holds your records for your title. What if their database on their server were to go down? I don't care if it's cloud hosted. As a matter of fact, cloud hosted stuff is even more vulnerable than anything else. It's tied to a financial system. What happens if they host it in Amazon and don't pay their bill? It literally goes away in 90 days. That's all of the land records. You think that this is crazy. You wait, Mr. Schwab is talking about a cyber attack is really the big thing that's coming, right? What happens when a cyber attack comes? People can't log into certain things. Financial things stop happening. I promise you, data integrity, uptime, availability, records will be massively destroyed. But if it's in decentralized storage architecture, it's not going to have that same threat vulnerability. I could take a photo, breaks into thousands of pieces. We could have literally 300 and actually not just breaks into thousands, but it can be stored in 1,000 different locations. Not one file, but a piece of that one file in 1,000 plus locations. 333 of those systems can go offline at the same time, and you can still get that data back. You still get that photo back. That is the future of intelligently organized technology for the digital world. Now, you tell me why a title company wouldn't write a title insurance policy on this. Like a mortgage company wouldn't actually go and say, hey, this is how it's being tracked and paid down. And then when things pass on, so there's going to be laws that'll come out. Like, for instance, and I didn't go through a lot of this, but it's a big part. It's a big part of where this is all going. And it's particularly around disputes. So what if you wanted to create an arbitration or a claim online in the digital world? Or maybe a trial by jury, or maybe a class action lawsuit. And maybe the class action lawsuits, maybe they're public, maybe they're private. Maybe think about it. You could actually create a claim as an individual with the QR code scan that could then you could say, you know what, I want this guy or this guy or this gal to be the three people that I want to mediate or arbitrate a particular topic. Maybe it's around, maybe one of the worst things that could happen is you pass. Do you have multiple kids, Bob? How many? So what happens when, and hopefully this doesn't happen, but it happened in my mom's family. So they own like downtown city real estate. Parents pass away, kids basically see value. My mom said, I don't even, relationships are too important to me. I don't want any piece of it. Take your own pieces and divide it up. But the point that I'm driving at it, what happens when there actually is a problem after you've passed away? How do you actually get resolution? So what I'm showing you is a system where people that are professionals can actually come into an ecosystem and help. And let's say that one person says, you know what? I have a problem with another person, and I actually, this is the person. So imagine, like, I got your QR code. I could actually put your public address inside of here and my public address. There's some scanning stuff that'll go on, and literally create a claim that's private or public or anonymous or not. And we could have someone that would actually help us through it. And it's cryptographically, the assets are proven, the identities are proven, but you can literally operate in a world where people don't have to be tied into a, a legal system that is not lawful, a justice system that doesn't really provide justice for the masses. Most people don't even feel like they have a voice when there's something like that. It's the people with a deep pocket and a lot of money that actually start winning when we talk about those things. That's not equality, right? So, and it's people just like you that log on and say, you know what, let's do this. Let's ask these questions. Let's understand this. Let's show up to this, even in the early days when there may not be a lot to be realized. But I think what we just did today, number one, it's never happened before in society ever. But Bob, you were the first one. You were said, oh, you know what? Create this asset. Go for it. Yeah. So what? Well, no. What you would do is we would basically grab their, if they had a clear phone or if they had an Android phone with digital life on it, they would scan their QR code, or you can invite them to it through a normal email address. And this is going to be a whole other part of the topics. When you log into this digital world, imagine getting email, calendar, contacts, text, docs, sheets, spreadsheets, all of these different systems that are already centralized, like with Google or with Microsoft or with Apple. But you can move into this digital world and start communicating with people through centralized to then decentralized email. But to answer your direct question, if we popped in their email address or if we scanned a QR code. So for instance, if you actually scanned this QR code, you would be a member of this organization. So what I want you to do is, you're already seeing my screen. Grab your phone, go to Clear Life, and you're going to go. I don't know if you've ever logged in with Clear Life, but go to Clear Life. If you have, go to Clear Life, top left button, down click on it. It's going to say the little hamburger thing. It's going to say scan. You got it, buddy. Scan QR code. I'm going to pull that back up again. Okay. Just scan this for us, will you? I wonder if you got to be running the latest version of Clear Life for this to work. I'm going to teach. Go ahead. Did it work or did it error it out again? Um, I don't think we've got engineers on, but basically, what will happen is you scan this and then literally it pops you in as a line item here. So I'm going to go in and show you how others have worked. So, no, actually, here's one. Here's one that's got multiple. So you can see all these other folks here Um, I don't want you to join that one. But you can understand what I'm talking about. You become an owner of it, so you can actually manage it through your QR code, even if I weren't there. And then you can have it's called multi-sig or multi-signatures, where you have multiple people that can basically manage different. Let's say you have, it's kind of like with a bank where you've got three signatures that have to be signed and verified. Do you really think they sign them and verify them? They don't. But in the cryptographic world, you actually have to do these things. And that's why using technology in this new digital world can circumvent what is going on with the centralized circus that's out there. There's no accountability. There's, I won't even speak the negative. Everyone understands the problem. I think tonight we've seen a very important example. What I'd love to do is maybe in the future go all the way through that, because this holdings business, you really, once we actually scan you as a member there, when you log into your digital world, you'll actually see this as your business. You're an owner of it. Does that make sense? So, yep, you got it. You got it. Yeah. So the people that actually own it are the people that have the digital asset. Like, I've got 1%, you got 99%. I just, and then like if I sent you that 1%, I wouldn't even be listed on here as an asset. It wouldn't show up in my thing. But an owner versus a member versus someone that actually has ownership are three different topics. You can have, someone that is actually basically managing the asset, kind of like an attorney would in a trust situation, or you can have someone that actually holds it, or you can have someone that's a part of the organization, but they may not have any of the assets. Okay. Those, you got it. That's exactly right. And let's say you wanted to accept currencies in multiple different currencies. Imagine a day where you can actually click on one of these and drag it and drop it, or vice versa, drag it and drop it onto one of these ecosystems. So you can say, I actually want to sell an asset. I'll jump over to an interface that may show more detail. Well, this kind of shows the home side of it. So let's say that a mortgage company lets you pay in a digital asset. Why? So it's a benefit for them. It's a benefit for you. It's also calculated. It's also taxed a certain way. I mean, it's, so imagine if you have home equity in a certain way, and you could literally, let's say every single payment, you could watch your equity grow. And then later on, it says, you know what? I actually want to pull out some of this equity. So this is where I got my initial mortgage. This is what I've paid into it. These are monies that I've actually pulled out. Imagine a world where, like in America, this is unheard of, but in New Zealand, it was very common. They would have people that would have what's called an overseas experience, where they would say, I'm going to take 2 months off and I'm actually going to go away, or 3 months off. Like there's a guy that I won't go into the details, but they basically reach out to their mortgage company and say, pause my mortgage. I'll be back in 3 months. They don't have to pay their mortgage for 3 months. All it does is it tacks on to the end. But in America, you basically say, hey, it's locked. If you miss a payment, you got to catch it. Yeah. You got it. That's exactly right. So imagine an ecosystem where the mortgage, the financing, the numbers, because in the mortgage world, in the title world, these are all cryptographic, mathematically proven calculations that they want. They don't want funny business. If there's something that goes on with a title, they want that proven. For instance, 1971 was the first time that blockchain was actually adopted or used, and it was around time stamping. That is exactly what we're talking about. Is you take a transaction. So someone filed a notice on this property. It was scanned here. It was filed here. It was notarized here. Boom, it pops up on a title report. Well, what happens with that? Well, we know who to contact. We know how to provide notice. We know how to, and you can do it anonymously. So think about it. In the state of Wyoming, they passed legislation that says you can create a business just like we did with a cryptographic key, just like we did. But do you think that state actually knows how to do it? Do you think they know how to do key management? But no, federally, for 3 or 4 years, I was there the very night they actually lit this up and approved it. The attorney general was with us. I mean, this is just amazing stuff on one state over from the current state that I'm in. And there's other countries that are doing it. Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, these are ecosystems that will literally standardize their whole. You want to register a car, you do it this way. You want to look up a license plate, you do it this way, but you provide privacy. You want to pay a bill, you do it. It's in America, it's unheard of. It's not common. But I won't talk about land management and mortgages or even passports, because people like you have to come in and vote on this stuff. Maybe we shouldn't even be messing around in the marriage world. Really, the core competency behind this marriage world ties to the county of Utah County, state of Utah, and the people that are already doing that. But how can we actually make it better? Should we even be involved in it? Should we ask to be involved in it? All of that is really everyone that's on here's choice, votes, but they have to have the opportunity to ask the questions or answer the questions. So that's what we're showing you today. There is no polling other than any more questions, by the way? Any other folks before we wrap up? Thank you for showing up every single week and asking smart questions. Um, I'm going to ask a question. So, for those that are on Clear One, you'll see a poll if you go down to chat in your center bottom. If you go up, you'll see chats, and on the right, you'll see polls. So, the question is, do you believe that global warming is created by humans? Yes or no? So, the basis for this question basically ties back to, is this world, this sphere, this rock that we get to float around on a universe, is it a natural thing for tides to rise, for waters to rise, for poles to get cold or warm? For instance, where I'm sitting currently used to be a lake, and it was actually created. Let's see here. It was created by a glacier, and some mountain ranges are by glaciers, some are by water, some are by wind. But the point that I'm driving at, it was actually under ice. I'm in Utah. There it gets up to 120 degrees, sometimes 100 degrees. It's so at certain times. The other thing that I learned, when you go from northern hemisphere to southern hemisphere and you go apart, summers become winters, winters become summers, toilets flush opposite way, everything, the SARS, everything's different. So my point is what do you really believe in? There is no right or wrong answer. As a matter of fact, there's a gentleman that I love. His name is Jimmy Levy, and him and I see that eye to eye on most things, but there's one that is, he believes the world's flat, and I don't believe the world's flat. But I love the dude. As a matter of fact, like yesterday or the day before, they have this camera that's got a gyroscope on it. And actually, as the earth turns, it takes photos. It's so cool. I've never seen it before. This last week. But Okay, so back to the question. Do you believe global warming is created by humans? Yes, no, and then question marks like you don't know. So maybe 2 seconds, so to speak. So the answer is, then we'll have one last question and we'll wrap up from you. The questions are from you. So yes, 14%. No, 86%. Don't know, 0%. So thank you for providing your feedback. That's very insightful and telling. And, again, this is just your perception. There's no right or no wrong, but it matters. One last question before we wrap up. Anybody? Go ahead. Here, let me show you this. Great question. I'm going to show you this. So this is a camera. I'm going to start it over. This is a camera that's on a gyro, and as the Earth turns, you can basically see. So, is it going upside down? Notice how those stars stay the same place, and it proves that we're actually moving. Isn't that so cool? That is amazing. Let me try and show you one other one. This guy here. I wonder. I don't know if it's this dude or dudette or whatever. Boy, you got to be careful when you come through these things. Um, let me just do this a different way. So I've actually looked at a lot of questions around that. Oh, here we go. Here we go. This was the one I wanted to show you because this actually takes a wider angle. Notice how you can see the curvature of the Earth. That's just amazing. Isn't this planet we get to live on just phenomenal? So I'm gonna drop that into another. So this is actually clear web, which we'll go ahead and play this real fast. So what this is time lapse photography. So it's a bunch of photos that are taken at a sequence, but it's on a gyro that automatically rotates with gravity of the Earth. So this is one of the biggest points that I believe that the Earth is round. Right. So here we go. So on that note, we'll call it a month and a night. We hope to see you in 30 or I guess it would be the first of the year. By the way, now's the time to be making your determinations on what you want to accomplish next year, what you don't want to accomplish, what you want to change. Maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a thought, maybe it's a. By the way, there was a saying or at least an example in my life early on by a gentleman, Michael Simpson, and he said, there's a certain thing that will either make you or break you. Do you know what it is? And I tried to figure it out. And he basically said, it's habits. Maybe it ties to choices, maybe it ties to good things, bad things, maybe an addiction, but habits are actually what will make us or break us. I also believe that we can break genealogical from generations past and even generations in the future can grow on this, but we are who our progenitors are. Their choices, are they ours? We have our own. But Sometimes it's difficult to break. Sometimes the tendencies, the desires, sometimes there's lessons to learn from generations that have already passed. I know some of you may have conflict with family members. I would urge you that as you see craziness in society, just the things that are going on, that you actually use the negativity of what that is, the negative energy in the news, in the hurt, in the pain, you use it in such a way where you actually think it's like what we talked about with Bob. This heart's not going to be beaten every single day. How I talk to people, how I treat people, especially loved ones, which is usually the ones that whether it's a spouse, whether it's a mother, a father, I just would urge you to try and mend those relationships if there's anything awry. I know that that's something that I personally have to do. And I'm grateful to be able to be here on this earth, especially even if people think it's round. But yeah, I'm grateful to know each one of you and build this memory, build this journal, build this history. Bob, what you did today was almost all the way through. We'll get that membership stuff figured out. But congratulations on being one of the first that goes all the way through that. Because you've probably seen a bunch more, but nobody's actually gotten it all the way through like that. Yeah, you can do it yourself. You got it. So I'll stop blabbing. We'll call it a night, and we will see you hopefully next Tuesday if you want to join the fun. And next Tuesday, why don't we try and figure out the ownership stuff here too? Anyways, much love, and we'll talk to you later.